Hey, welcome back, everybody. Appreciate you checking in and tuning in to another edition of 20 Minutes. Happy to bring these to you every week. And yeah, we're firing them back up for sure. We're having a couple, two, three a week now because, well, let's face it, haven't done them in a while. And just a lot of coaches I want to talk to. And I love being able to check in with these guys and just throw some stuff around and why not record it and put it out as a video cast. So again, thanks for watching, everybody. By the way, hit like, hit subscribe, whatever you can do. Definitely on the YouTube page as well. And that's been the home of my video for a while. So you follow that YouTube, my YouTube page, you'll get the notifications and what have you. Anyway, enough of the plugs. Let's get into this. So our guest this week, someone that I have had the pleasure of knowing. Well, I'm not going to tell him how long. It's just been way, way, way long time, going back to when he was assistant under Gary Cohornan, and glad to have him back talking and haven't seen him in a while. And damn it, Tony, you look the same now than he did 4 or 5 years ago. It's unbelievable.
I guess that's a good thing, right?
Tony Sheehan from Richards, Oaklawn and Richards, joining us. And again, just hope you're doing well. I know your program's always doing well. That's the one thing about Richards that Tony, it hasn't changed. It's been a consistent winner in the south suburbs, and I know you make it look a hell of a lot easier than it is, I'm sure, but you still manage to find a way, you and that wacky staff of yours, and you guys have gotten it done, so congratulations on that. I know it hasn't been easy. I know there's all kinds of hurdles and COVID and everything else we've dealt with, but just appreciate the work that you've done at Richards all these years and continue to put in. And are you on your 14th year now?
That last season was 14. Thanks for having us on, by the way. It's always good to see you and talk to you. Yeah, last season was 14, so this will be year 15, if you can believe that. It's flown by. And you know, the other day, somebody said, you know, Richards has had 2 head coaches in the last 50 years, which is you don't see that very often with a high school program. So it's kind of I'm unique and lucky to be a part of it.
You know what's ironic is the only other program I can kind of think of with that scenario is I guess we'll call them a longtime rival that's located relatively close to Richards, Providence.
Yeah.
Providence is on their 3rd coach now in school history since they've been playing football. So
it's remarkable to think of, you know, that there's been 2 of us in the last 50 years. So I'm lucky that they keep me around.
Is this era going away with you in your generation as coaches, as far as the guys that are long-term, that put in the 20, 30 years of coaching and teaching? Tony, it sure seems like people are getting in and getting out more than they ever have from the coaching standpoint. What are you seeing in regards to that?
It's hard, you know. It's changed even from the time when I was lucky enough to take over. You know, it's 365 now almost, you know, whereas before you kind of had a little bit of time off. You know, weightlifting, you know, these guys are all doing, you know, they do 7-on-7 stuff, and then you get in the summer and you get your days in the summer. And, you know, I can see how some guys get burned out. And especially, to be honest, I thought there'd be a large amount of guys getting out after, you know, COVID with the spring and then going right into the fall.
Yep.
I mean, that's hard on families too. And, you know, that those dynamics have changed as well. Of, you know, you got to be lucky and, you know, who you marry, to be honest with you. And I got very lucky, you know, because it's not easy for them. And, you know, I have 2 kids. I know guys who have 4 and 5. I don't know how their wives do it. You know, my wife's in the fall is constantly running around, and, you know, she's a teacher as well. So she's busy on herself, but, you know, taking the kids places, and, you know, I don't really help. So now in the winter, I pretty much, I do a lot of it now just to kind of catch up and give her a break. But I can see how guys get a little burned out. It can wear on you. And, you know, there's times, you know, after the season, even me, I got to take a step back, and, you know, you kind of like, you need a little time off every once in a while just to re-energize.
So they give you a little bit different perspective in regards to your assistants as well?
Yeah. You know, I try to, In the off season, we lift usually 3 days. I ask the guys for one day. That's it. I don't want them to be there 3 days. You know, it's a grind. I got a lot of guys that do other sports, so we're constantly kind of switching in that. Where one might be there in the winter, he goes coaches the spring. The guy that was coaching it, was coaching in the winter will come in the spring. So kind of we do that, and I try to do as best we can with the COVID and Zoom now. We used to go into school and meet on a Sunday. Now with what Zoom, I said, hey, let's just get on Zoom. We can go into breakout rooms and do that, and let's not, guys don't have to come in. We can use that to our advantage. I'm going to be honest. After teaching on Zoom, there's times I can't stand it. But at the same time, if it's going to save guys and it saves me, I can go on the deck, and we can have our meeting, and it's not me having to leave. And there again, my wife's on her own, so it is helped in those ways. And I try not to be, I don't ask anybody to do anything I wouldn't do. It's kind of my rule. So.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And you mentioned the demands on coaches and especially those assistant coaches now, because I think COVID really threw, and again, I know your staff, from what I remember, pretty much stays intact, but there were a lot of assistant coaches that left as well. And I think part of that had to do with the fact that, they were asked to write out COVID in the fall, and obviously we didn't play. And then we turn around and fire up in the spring. And a lot of these assistant coaches, as you mentioned, they're coaching other sports. And some of these guys are coaching travel where they're making a halfway decent buck for coaching travel. And it's a lot to give up. It's a lot to sacrifice.
Yeah, it was a lot. And throwing that COVID in that spring season and then going right back into summer and then right into a season. It was long. And I think it got to some guys, but that's why, like I said, I asked for one day a week, and that can help. And we're up there an hour and a half. It's nothing, too strenuous.
So the one thing I've been dying to ask you, and again, just being fortunate to be around that Richards program for so many years. Every time you go out to the field, does it bring a smile to your face now?
Oh, it is beautiful. I mean, and that was part of the reason the spring was for us, because we practiced for a couple weeks on it, right up until we started playing games, and then they tore it up. So we were, and having lower levels, and we're kind of landlocked. I mean, there was times we had to go in the morning at a different place or the afternoon at a park in Chicago Ridge, and it was taxing, but to see it come about and then get on it finally, and now you see it's gorgeous, and it's going to make life a lot easier.
How has it changed, or has it changed? I don't know, everything from play calling to maybe strategy wise that, I mean, let's face it, you and I have been on the same sidelines during some of those mud and wet and snow.
Oh yeah.
And the way, just amazing that thing held up the way it did. Now that you got the turf, and let's face it, and we said this for years, there's a program that would benefit from the turf, it would be Richards, because you've had so many great athletes through that program. It's like, hey, let's give them a nice dry surface and let's really see what they can do.
Yeah.
So did it change any of that for you?
It has a little bit. We want to get our guys out in space all the time. As you said, we've had a lot of good athletes and good football players that can play in space. And, it's going to help us immensely in the long run. Some of those games that were in the rain and the mud, sometimes helped because we were the only team on grass, and other teams coming from turf, didn't know how to play that, and we were always in it. So it did work out sometimes in our benefit. But, with the guys we have coming back and what we've had in the past, there's some teams I would have loved to have seen what we could have done on turf all the time.
I don't know if it's me being naive, but it seems like the last handful of years, I really started to notice those teams that play on turf that have to go play on grass. Were you noticing that as well, where there's just like an uncomfortable fefeeling?
Yeah. And
used to it.
And if they don't have a grass practice field, or if they're on there all the time, it was an advantage at times. The good thing with us is, we do have another grass field, so, that we go on, and we'll use both, so we won't just be stuck to turf. We'll be in some mud at times because that
Yeah.
practice field gets torn up pretty quick. So which will help us in the long run.
When the news came out earlier this week about 1 through 32 from 6A to 1A, you're one of the first people I thought, and one of the first schools I thought that is going to look at this and say, you know what? Okay, I'm going to safe to say you pretty much endorse going 1 through 32.
Oh,
Looking at your path over the last handful of years, you've made the trip to East St. Louis and back way too many times in the last couple of years.
some would want to
And
forget.
yeah, and it's and again, I think the big hang up and the thing that I'm thrilled about is a class like 6A, which we talked about before we started recording. You've got schools like Richards and like East St. Louis that it seemed like every year you're running into the same damn teams in almost the same exact round. Now, hopefully, and look, I understand. We
Yeah,
very well could get a draw where we see East St. Louis
yeah,
Richards in round two. And if that
yeah.
happens, that's okay.
It happens. That's part
But
of it.
even the north part of the bracket we talked about with Cary Grove and schools like Antioch, and look, they don't want to run into those guys either. And Prairie Ridge doesn't want to run into Cary in the second round. It's just I just think, Tony, we're getting back to, and again, if I to say whoever pulled the trigger on this, and I'm sure it came out of your football advisory committee, but whoever decided to pull the trigger, I salute them because I think we're finally looking at it and saying, look, okay, this is what we have. What can we do to make it even better? And I think, Tony, when it's all said and done, yes, there's going to be some schools. They're going to have a 250, 300-mile one-way trip. It happens. It's going to happen. But in the big scheme of things, I think we're going to get better playoffs and just better overall state finals and state champions.
I agree. And when it came out, it was, I had a huge smile. I sent a group text out to all the coaches. It finally happened. Yeah, it was my last year on the football advisory board, and an email came out about what we were going to talk about, and was there anything anybody wanted to add to the agenda? And that, to be honest, I just put, how about 1 through 32 for 6A? And then when it got brought up, some of the guys in the lower, 1As and 3As were like, hey, we want it too. We're tired of beating each other up. And that's really what it comes down to is, we talked about it on the board is, there's probably 10 to 12 teams, are going to make the playoffs every year. There's,
Yep.
4 or 5, maybe 6 that rotate, or somebody has a good year, somebody has a down year. Who's in it when it's north and south. And it's the same old, we're just kind of like, hey, part of being in high school and part of playing football in the playoffs is taking a road trip and experience and going and playing new teams and go, if we got to go up to Antioch or we have to go up to Cary Grove, hey, you know what? We could lose, but you know what? It's an experience and it's something different. And, down in the 1As, if they got to take a little trip, they're tired of seeing each other in the in the second round. So I think it's great. We talked about on the board that this is going to add excitement, especially after coming out of COVID. This is going to add a little bit something to football and get more people involved, more people excited about it, that it's not just going to be, the same old. Because for years, it was, we were going to see Lamont in either the round 2 or the quarters. And it, hey, look, I love playing Lamont. I love playing at Lamont, but year in and year out, one of us should have a chance in playing somebody else. And, and I'm sure Cary Grove and Prairie Ridge are feeling the same thing. Like, yeah. And you know what? Like you said, it could happen. They see each other in the second round again. That's just the way it goes. But you'd rather have it by that than
you could understand that.
Yes. Yeah. It happens.
And I've never been a fan of the hocus pocus geographic juggling that goes on, because
Never makes sense.
Because I could give you a handful of schools that'll talk to you and go, look, I don't know where they got this from, but we got sent this way, and 2 years before we got sent that way.
Yep.
And I, again, you're just taking that element completely out of it, and let's see how it goes. I think it's going to be a big success. I really do.
It's going to be fun. It's now pairing night is a pairings night, not a, you knew going in who you were getting. Now it's, it can change.
And the other part of this, and tell me if you think I'm off base or not, but the educational aspect of those road trips. I mean, let's face it, you're in the south suburbs, you're in Oak Lawn. I'm sure you've got some kids that I'm going to guess has probably never left Chicagoland at best.
Yep.
They've never gotten on a bus and go 3-4 hours. Well, okay, in your program they have,
Now
unfortunately,
they
a
have.
few times. But the fact that you're making trips and you hear about East St. Louis and you hear about them in the news and you hear all these and you get these ideas in your mind, and then you go down there for a football game and you see their facility and you see their fan support and
Beautiful.
you see that, hey, you know what? This isn't all doom and gloom, and there is something positive going on down here. And Tony, that happens all over the state. You can go out to the Quad Cities, you can go up to Rockford, which you guys have done at Richards many times in the past. You learn from that as a kid. You get to open your eyes, and it's like, God. And Tony, some of those kids will never forget those road trips. I think we've missed out. I think those
Yeah,
kids have missed out.
I agree. Um, with us being in 6A and in the South, we've actually been lucky enough. We've taken a few trips. The first year we made the playoffs, we went out to Rock Island. I'll never forget that.
Yeah,
Our first playoffs, we're both 8-1, and we're on the road going out to Rock Island, taking a half. Kids get out a half day, and
yeah.
it brings the kids together. It's something they're never going to forget. It's
Well, and
something.
there's a stadium they're
Yeah.
never going to forget.
No, they see that, and it brings you together. There's just something about taking a road trip together that no one thinks you can do something. Going down, and you are absolutely right. The facilities at East St. Louis are gorgeous. They are, and they treat you better than anybody could ever imagine. It is fabulous down there.
Yeah.
Just not the outcomes haven't been fabulous, but when you
Right.
when you get down there,
There's a long line of guys that can join you in that, by the
yeah,
way. So,
I'm not alone in that one. But it is great, and that's part of our argument is, hey, you know what, some of those northern teams should come down and play at Gately and have that experience of play. Gately's a great place to play, and they don't get that chance every time, and or a Cary Grove going down to East St. Louis or East St. Louis going up there. Those are things you'll never forget, and I think when they met in that executive board meeting, I applaud them and I thank them because I think they did the right thing, and I think they did the right thing for football, to be honest.
um, the new facility, the new turf, did it bring some extra excitement to the program?
Yeah,
It would have to, right?
yes, and, everyone would drive by, obviously being on Central on a busy street. You get texts, when's it going to be ready, this and that, and then once it was finished and people saw it and started coming, and especially alumni, they're like, this is beautiful. Sending film out, you'd get text back and go, hey, I wish we were playing at your place. It looks beautiful, and it did. And in the school, after having a year where you couldn't play in front of fans and kids couldn't come and being off, I mean, we had great student sections every week, and it was just, it brought back kind of that community sense that we hadn't had in a while, and it was good to see. And it helped immensely, and it just brought about. We had our pep assembly. We had it outside for the first time. It was on the turf, and it went great. It was a little warm, but it was, you can do those things now, and it adds to the entire school, and it makes the school and the grounds look beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. You just finished, and you're in the process of finishing up a recruiting class. I mean, I preach it all the time, how incredibly difficult the last couple of years have been with recruiting, trying to get kids placed, trying to find opportunities. I know you're probably trying to preach that to your parents as well, whether they're understanding it or whether it's going through in ear and out the other. That's to be decided. Um, just talk about the difficulties you've had as a coach, just trying to find somewhere, a home for your kids, because I mean, your program, Tony, every year places quite a few kids. And, I got to imagine this had to have been the last year or two, some of the biggest challenges for that you've had.
Yeah, especially this year, we had a good group of seniors. Some of them were tweeners, but I thought they could play at one level, and with that portal and then giving the kids the extra year, it really hurt high school kids. Unless you're, one of the top top guys around, it hurt some of these, smaller guys. We really saw it a lot this year, and still seeing it now. And I'm still trying to get some guys some places now. And I feel bad for them. And I've told them, I said, look, you guys are really getting hurt by this. And
Yeah.
hopefully this, even the guys coming in, they get it too. They're like, we feel bad for you guys. We feel bad for the kids. But, at the same time, I understand their part is that's how they put food on the table for their families. So they got to do what's best for their program. I get it. But it's terrible for these kids right now. And especially, unless you're, the 3 stars and above, you're going to find, and even some of those guys are struggling to find a spot to where they really truly belong, just because there's not a lot of spots.
Or once they get in, now they're going in the portal.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a
It's
complete turnaround.
It's insane. Every time you look on Twitter or something, and this
Yeah.
guy's in the portal or this guy, and I feel bad. I really feel bad for these kids.
I mean, just from our network, to give you an idea, I mean, we're dedicating full-time resources just to cover the portal.
I
That's how
can.
big it is. Yeah.
I mean, now you hear these college coaches talking where there is a person within their building who's in charge of the portal, like
Monitoring who's in, who's out. Yeah.
Hopefully it settles down. I would hope after the next year or so, and those years go away, that we can kind of get back to that. And I hope.
I know you get out on the coaches circuit this time of year. And obviously you end up presenting at some of them. Better vibe out there this off season. Guys a little more bruised than they've been.
Yeah, I think guys are glad to get back in person too. I've been to a couple. I talked to one, and everyone just seemed to be happy to be out there and talking ball and sitting there.
Imagine that a social hour where people are actually there to be social.
Yeah, and you're talking ball, and you haven't seen them for a while, and it's been great. And I hope we continue and we can get past this and move on. And it seems that in our profession we are, and we're trying to get back to whatever normal is. You know how that goes. But yeah, guys are out, and it's been great to see some guys that you haven't seen in a while. You might be texting them or doing Zooms, and that was great. I've met some new guys that I had never met before or talked to, and now we're friends, and we'll Zoom at time to time, talk about, hey, I picked this up or I picked that up. But it's always better to see him in person, sit down, and enjoy a cocktail or two, and scribble some things on some napkins.
Yeah, there you go. And I realize it's early February, so you got a few months before I really hit you with the hard hitting stuff. But 2022, just overall thoughts. What do you got coming back? What's got you a little excited in the off season here?
Well, we're excited. We got a good group coming back. We got a couple linemen that have started. We'll have one that's a 3-year starter. Some other guys that played a lot. We got Donnie Burton back. We got 2 quarterbacks back that we really like. We got some other receivers. We got some D linemen back that we like, and some DBs. Our linebackers will be new, but we always do a good job of replacing our linebackers. And these kids have worked extremely hard in the weight room already, and you can already start to see the shoulders getting big. There's no complaining. They get in there and they work, and it's great to see. We have great numbers right now in the weight room. We got a lot of guys wrestling. We got guys playing basketball. So I love guys competing and doing, indoor track starting. So they're going to that after lifting. And it's just, it's been a good off season so far. And, like I said, we took a couple weeks off, and then we got back at it right after Thanksgiving. We got a couple good weeks in, and then, right when January hit, we've been back at it. And the kids, this is a group, there's times, in years past where you get to February, March, or even April, and you're kind of like, the weight room. Oh man, like this guy, I enjoy going up there now. I'm smiling. They're a great group. You can laugh with them, and but they work hard, and they get after it, and they love being up there, and they love being around each other. So we're excited. Now, does that mean it's going to translate to a lot of wins? Who knows? But they're a good group, and so far it's been fun.
Yeah, you'll take that any day of the week, I'm
Oh,
sure. As far as just being able to get into the groove and get into the flow, and you look back at COVID, what was the biggest challenge for you? Was it just that camaraderie? Was it the isolation where you just, because I mean, you're a coach that you've got to be there. I can't see you being able to coach via Zoom for very long before,
yeah.
you're that upfront coach that wants to deal with kids one-on-one and in person. What's been the biggest struggle for you during all this?
Especially I'll tell you, I know it was great to play that spring season. I don't hide it anymore. It was miserable
Yeah.
for myself. Just like I said, we didn't have a field, so we were going different places. Um, we were a hybrid. Kids had a choice to being in school and not being in school, so you don't even know who's in school,
Right.
who's not in school. The whole Zoom thing. We're having to set at different times. Some kids were at home trying to get rides in the it was just dealing with all, and it's
Yeah.
not excuse. It was all that, and hey, look, I love being out there in the field and coaching, but it took a toll on you.
Yeah.
It took a toll on everybody. It took a toll on the kids. They're kids, and they need to grow up. They need coaches around them all the time. Not having a summer that to be honest, now looking back and reflecting, that's when we get our kids to grow up is in the summer. You expect a lot of them in the summer. They got to give up things, but it's also a grind, and you get after them, and that's when they grow up. In between that junior and senior year, or even sophomore to junior year. And not having that, we saw it, and it was great to have a summer last year. I think that helped. We grew up immensely in that, but that part of it, just not being with them all the time, not having an off season, not getting to know them, they're, I'm quirky. I got my quirks. They got their quirks, and you get to know them, and, the kids didn't even, now they know, even if I'm having a bad day, they know, like, hey, come on, let's go, and they pick me up, and it's because they're around us all the time, or you see a kid having a bad day. Hey, let's go. Come on. It's all right. We'll be good. And
Good. No more of this ever
no,
again. Let's never go back to this ever again.
No, no.
Unreal. Tony, I appreciate it, man. It's great to talk to you. I haven't seen you in a year or so. Is the 7-on-7 coming back this summer?
No, you know what? Sorry, just with
You're not the only one. You're not the only one. There's a lot of them that aren't coming back this year.
I just don't know. And now that we have that turf, like going over, we can just have some smaller ones there, and it's just kind of easier. And I don't know, I don't want the rug being pulled out from under us, 2 days before, going, something happens in a new variant. You can't have 12 teams here. I don't want to do that to teams. I don't.
You're not the only one. A lot of coaches feel the same way.
I just don't want to do that to people anymore. And hopefully one day maybe we can get it back. But I just don't. I don't want to do that to somebody. And
yeah, it's fair enough. I don't blame you. It's a lot, like you said. It's a lot to take on, and if you got to flip the switch at the last minute, I know what a pain that can be.
Yeah,
so, it's all right.
Yeah,
it's a big part of my social calendar.
I understand. I'll shoot you the day. We got some good, smaller ones with some.
I'll sneak over. I'll make my way over to Oaklawn. Never a problem.
See the new field.
I know where the good restaurants are up and down Cicero too, so that's never a problem. So, Tony, you're the best, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us on. I appreciate it.